Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. I've been really thinking a lot about what it means to be a child of God. And very specifically, there's the sort of metaphysical component of, wow, like I came from that. And there's a way in which I'm like that. And that's fascinating. But really, what I'm thinking about lately and reflecting on and seeking to practice is how much I need God. A child is utterly dependent on its parents for its survival. Utterly dependent. And the thing is, my understanding is we're utterly dependent. I am utterly dependent on God for my well-being. Yes, I can turn my back on God and I'll continue to live. And this is where it gets a little subtle, because what if God is like oxygen? Like we absolutely need it. But maybe it's more like God is healthy food. We can get by on junk food. We can live on junk food, but it can't really thrive. Or minimal nutrition. Sure, we can get by, we can survive, but can we really thrive without it? Bruno Groening was very adamant that there is no life without God. That's a bold statement. And I can only speak for myself, is that I'm at the point in my spiritual journey where if I don't put God first, I suffer. Life doesn't go very well. Sure, it'll go well for a day, an hour, a day, maybe a week, usually not even a week. Things are just really bumpy. And without God, without being connected to God, it's like I could get by. I used to be able to get by, kind of slide past. But at a certain point, metaphorically, the body says no more junk food. At a certain point, the soul, much less the body, recognizes that it needs something. It needs good music. It needs the good transmission. And that the bad transmission, well, it can seem fun in the short term, in the short run, just takes us places we don't want to go. And not just that, but that what is satisfaction and what is happiness? And that while people, places, and things, experiences can be quite enjoyable, that the ultimate satisfaction comes from connection with the divine and then being in service to that. That's where I found it comes full circle. It's not just sitting there tuning in all day. If you have that vocation, that's fine for a monk or a nun. But then to be connected and then to serve that, to express that in our own little way, to become instruments, as Bruno Groening spoke of, to become instruments, to become servants of God. And I meant to say this at the beginning, please don't believe anything I say. Please hear what I say. Please come to an intellectual understanding and then find out for yourself if it's true. Because the long and short of it is, in the 21st century, there's who knows how many, hundreds, if not millions of people who are saying, this is the truth. You should believe this. You should do this. You should live this way. I mean, thanks to YouTube alone, millions of people, who knows, millions might be a conservative estimate. And so what I would ask is that as you listen to me or you listen to anyone to take it in intellectually, to have an intellectual understanding, but don't say yes or no to it. Let that come from a deep within yourself. So, so today I've talked about this need of dependence, that we are dependent on God, that we can't really thrive without connection to God. And I've spoken about, in my experience, that it comes full circle when I'm really connected to God and then I'm in service. That's kind of the main points of what I've expressed so far, yeah? Did I leave anything out? And that we can get by without God, but can't really thrive. And that ultimate happiness really comes from this feeling, this experience. It's more than a feeling, though it's partially a feeling of connection with God and then being in service. And so those are my main points. So please think on them and see that you kind of understand what I'm saying. But please don't take me seriously. Let your heart, your soul, your being, something deep within, say yes or no to everything I've said. And not just me, everyone, all the millions of people. And those are, I'm just saying, when I say a million, that's just people who are sort of formally teaching. But see, all throughout the day, people are teaching. All throughout the day. Let me just think today. I heard someone make a comment today about there being a lot of stupidity in the world, and if we're not being mindful, then we just take ideas in and say yes to them without checking in. And luckily, I checked in. I listened to myself, or I listened to what he said, and then I listened to myself, and I was like. And then I had my own response, which I didn't verbalize. I didn't need to, but what that means to me, and what feels true about that statement, what feels not true about that statement. When I started my spiritual journey, every spiritual book I read, I assumed it was true. I thought, oh, it's spiritual, so it must be true. But it ends up that's not the case. Just because something claims to be spiritual doesn't mean it's true. And for those of you, this channel is dedicated to Bruno Groening. And, first of all, the question is, am I accurately sharing what Bruno taught? And second of all, let's say I am. Let's say 100% I'm accurately representing what Bruno taught. It's not enough to just say, oh, Bruno said it, so it's true. It has to come from a really deep place. It's a place to begin, to have an intellectual understanding, or to say, oh, I trust Bruno Groening, so that's true. Like that's a nice first step. I've said it enough times. So let's spend a little time taking in the energy of life, the energy of God, observing your body, having the will and intention to take this energy in. observing the body, having the intention to take in what's good. It's a really fascinating question. How do we know whether something is true or not? It's a very deep question. With scientific method, you can conduct an experiment. But how do we know spiritual truth? For me, there's sort of two ways I see is one, does it work? Literally, does it work? For example, in terms of physical healings, like, yes, oh my gosh, I did what Bruno Groening said and I experienced healing. But the other place is, so that's a little bit like scientific method. But the other place is really listening deeply inside myself, like reflecting on something like, we need God, or we're dependent on God, or I'm a child of God. I'm just like a child. I'm utterly something like that. And really reflecting on it. And the thinking doesn't quite cut it. Not quite what I'm talking about. Like soul searching and reflecting on my life. Like, okay, happiness only comes from God and serving God. And then really reflecting on my life. What has brought me happiness? What's brought me real happiness? What are my real moments of joy? How does my life go when I focus on God or when I don't focus on God? And so forth and so on. And Bruno Groening called people this, to reflect on themselves, to reflect on what he said. Bruno Groening called people to reflect at the end of each day, to do their best to recall each moment of the day and see how the day went. He called this life here on earth a school. We're here to learn. So I was just I teach I teach a form of stick dancing, of dancing with sticks, where two people are making contact, where their sticks cross. Let's see if I have. Yeah, like they make contact, and there are different patterns. And I've noticed that as I'm teaching, I talk to I'll work one on one with people, and then I talk too much. Like I point out things while they're still doing it, and it throws them off. And I had to do it about 4 or 5 times and be like, oh wow, that doesn't work. That throws people off. But then there's breaking the habit. And then really seeking to change that. But if I hadn't been paying attention, I wouldn't have even noticed. I would have just been, doing my thing and talking in the middle of it. It would have interrupted them, and I would just keep doing it. So Bruno Groening spoke about the force of habit, that we have habits of thought, of feeling, and behaving, and we just repeat them over and over and over. And sadly, most of the habits are not good habits. And one of our worst habits is assigning truth to something that we don't know that it's true, confusing an opinion with like the absolute truth. Bruno Groening once said, I'm the only person on this planet who has no opinions. But that doesn't mean then, and he didn't say, I'm the only person who has no opinions, so just believe everything I say. He called us to really go on just like a quest, a full-on search for the truth. In describing himself, Bruno Groening said that he never listened to other people, even as a child. Now, the German word for listen, or the word that was used, it means to like really give your full attention to. And um, I believe what he means by that is not that he didn't hear the words that other people spoke, but he didn't take them as truth. He stayed connected to God and got an inward, sort of, in essence, yes or no for everything that everyone said. Anna, hello. Thanks for saying hi. Guten Tag. Yes, Krista, I think that part of Bruno's teaching is more important today than ever. I remember about maybe 6 or 7 years ago, there was something going all across social media about how a certain part of the world was now radioactive and dangerous. And there were charts, and it looked very scientific. And one person would receive it and then pass it on. And it just got passed all over Facebook. And then it ends up that not only was it not true, but it was a hoax. Like someone had consciously created something that looked realistic. It really did. It looked very scientific and very official. And I don't even know what their motive was. And I don't even know how many millions of, probably tens of millions of people saw that and said yes to it and then passed it on without um, without even once asking, is it true? My initial, when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, because I thought, oh, it's scientific, so it must be true. And then luckily I was like, wait, that can't be true. Um, and then I watched it go around for the next month, go around Facebook. So many of my friends posted it or reposted it. And I forget what Bruno Groening in essence said, that most people don't know right from wrong anymore, and don't know what's true anymore. I'm paraphrasing, but those are very radical statements, right? Not knowing what's true, not knowing what's right and wrong. And everyone's just kind of sort of talking and passing along these rumors and then passing them along as if they're true, as if they're scientific facts, as if they have the charts and graphs to prove it. So, thank you so much for saying that, Krista. I think you're really onto something. That's not to say that everything on social media is bad or wrong, just that we need that sense of discernment more than ever. And welcome, Anna. I think it's your first time saying hi on this channel. Do you know much about Bruno Groening? If you don't have to answer that, but if you'd like to, please do. Okay. And yes, you do know a little bit about Bruno Groening, so it's your first time live here, and is your first time hearing about Bruno Groening? Okay, good. So, welcome. That inspires me to share a little bit. So I'll assume that you know the basics. You know that Bruno was active in post World War II Germany, and around him, the seemingly impossible happened. Terminal cases of cancer vanish. Okay, good. And that he taught profound, what I see as profound spiritual truths in a language that a child could understand. Very simple, very straightforward. And that he's still available to help here and now. Okay. You know about, okay, good. You know about his, great. Well, I am, first of all, welcome. Makes me very happy to hear that you've even heard of Bruno. A lot of people haven't. So you know a little bit about his life, and yeah, I'd be happy to share some of his teachings and practices. Okay, yes, you know about his work in healing. So I'm going to send you a link, which is a video I made that gives an overview of his teachings. And you can watch that later on. And welcome. I'm really excited that you're here, and I'm excited that you found out about Bruno. So I just sent you a link that gives you an overview of his teachings and how to practice them. And also here's my website. On my website, there's a section called Become a Master of Life. And here's a quote from Bruno Groening about that. He said, "People say to me, master, or people call me a master. But what is a master? He who completely masters a craft, for instance, he is a master. There are master locksmiths, tailors, carpenters, etc. I wish that you become masters of life." So Bruno Groening, to my knowledge, never confirmed or denied the title or phrase master, but people called him master. It's I can understand why that. I think of him as a master. The interesting thing is that he wants us to become masters of life. Well, how to do that? Well, first and foremost, let's get really deep for a moment. And let's ask the question, well, what am I? We think of ourselves as a human being. Okay, but what's a human being? Well, Bruno Groening said it's a spirit, a soul, and a body. We tend to understand the body, but what is a spirit? Well, Bruno Groening described the spirit as a kind of divine spark. In fact, I'll read something that he wrote on it. This is from the book Powers of the Spirit, which is my favorite book about Bruno Groening. And he said, the soul can be compared to a wonderful, beautiful flower about the size of my open palm. When a person wants what is good, their soul then opens just like a satellite dish, and the divine energy streams into it fully. But if a person takes up just a single bad thought, then their soul shuts itself up at once, and the connection to God is interrupted. The soul is therefore the receiving device for the healing stream. A good will opens the mirror of the soul, and the power can flow. But it will not let in even the tiniest bad feeling, because it will shut itself up as quick as lightning. So the soul is where the divine spark is located in human beings, to which no evil can gain access. It is for this reason that I'm always saying, in the world there are no bad people from a spiritual point of view, but only people with bad habits. So, for me, that contains almost all of Bruno Groening's teachings in one paragraph. And that's page 219 from the book Powers of the Spirit. So, inside the soul is a divine spark. Bruno Groening said God is everywhere and in everything, and even in us. And he said there's a part of us that cannot be tainted, is pure, is divine, and can't be touched by any evil, any negativity. And then he spoke of the soul. And here he talks about how the soul is the receiving device. That's an interesting phrase, the receiving device for the divine energy. And that a good will and wanting what is good activates the soul or opens the soul to receive this energy. However, the soul is also, you could think of it as the protector of the divine spark, that it won't let into itself anything evil. So when we take in a negative thought or negative energy, the soul shuts itself off and the connection with the divine is severed. That's why Bruno Groening spoke so adamantly about being mindful of our thoughts. The book is called Powers of the Spirit. So, the body needs the divine energy to thrive. We've been taught that we need food and water. And Bruno Groening pointed out, no, not just food and water, also needs the divine energy. So the soul receives the divine energy, and as long as we maintain a good will, or we maintain the intention to be connected to God, then the soul is open, we receive the divine energy, and then it spreads throughout the whole body. And then life goes so much better when we're full of good divine energy, we're guided, we have more energy, we're able to be mindful of our thoughts. But the soul, but we're also in this receptive capacity, it can also hear negative thoughts that are not of God, not of the good. And then it shuts itself off, and that connection is cut off. And the body literally then takes in negativity, evil, illness. And the way to free ourselves, first of all, the idea is to keep the negative out. But once we've taken it on, Bruno Groening was very clear that human beings would not able to free the body of evil. That the only way to do that was the divine energy, taking in the divine energy. And so that's how healing occurs from the spiritual point of view. is you take in divine energy that displaces the negative energy. So enough talking, let's do it. Please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards. Back in a relaxed upright position, if possible, not leaning against your chair. And then close your eyes. Now have the will, the intention to take in this good energy, want the good, and ask God, ask a spiritual helper you trust, such as Bruno, such as Jesus, to help you take this energy in. And then observe your body, noticing what you feel. Having the will, the intention to receive this energy. Observing the body, having the intention to receive. Opening to receive, engaging our will. Having the will to receive. So a very warm welcome to you, Anna. Thanks for saying hello, Krista. Going to begin to wrap up. Uh, I'm alive because of Bruno Groening and these teachings. And I'm not the only one. There are literally tens of thousands of people who would no longer be on this planet. But who experienced healing through this. Really, if you think about it, it's not complicated. This idea of positive energy expelling negative energy, and the body being this amazing living machine that functions well until something negative gets put in it, and then disorder begins to creep up, and so to restore it to health, to remove the disorder. Except generally most people aren't able to do that on their own. They need divine help. So let's do, I'll lead us through a very short prayer. Please, please, infinite God, life, love. Please, our dear friend Bruno, for everyone who attended today, for everyone who watches this video, please, the highest blessing. For this channel and ministry, please, may it touch so many people and help so many people find the direct connection to God. For everyone involved in the sharing of Bruno Groening's work, for everyone involved in any kind of service work, any kind of sharing the good. Please, for everyone and anyone in need. And please, for those who have really lost faith, please, grace and mercy. And please, an openness to recognize the work of a higher power. Now let's ask inwardly for any personal circumstances we have. Really giving the burdens away to God or to Bruno. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're so welcome, Anna. So glad you found this channel, and so happy to hear you found Bruno Groening. And I wish everyone a beautiful, beautiful day. Take care. Much love.